Another disturbing trend is the increased crackdown on protests under the Trump administration. I've told the stories before about how insane the inauguration was and how everyone was just penned. We know the story of the J20 protesters, how they were trying to charge them with countless felonies, conspiracy to riot. They were swept up in the vicinity of protests. I mean, we're talking about journalists included. So that was a really scary moment. Luckily, the courts threw that out. But scary things are happening all across the country. When people are arrested, normal booking websites will either post their mugshot or whatever. Well, now Berkeley police are not just publishing mugshots of people like normal booking websites do. They are posting them on Twitter. And not only that, but doxing these activists, frankly, with their names and faces and essentially celebrating the feedback from alt-right psychopaths and degenerates who hate Antifa and actually want them to die and fulfill this fantasy that they can go fight these street battles with Antifa super soldiers. So the police were saying that they would only do this with protest-related arrests. I mean, clearly this is just focused on activism to discourage it. They jailed a bunch of people from this one protest with, quote, banned weapons charges who literally just had signs. So you see this time and again, too, that people can bring giant flagpoles with American flags on it, and those are fine. So they're always selective about who they target here. And I'm just going to read a quick quote from The Guardian right here about this. It says, Berkeley police published the names and photos of anti-fascist protesters on Twitter and said it was creating a counter-narrative on social media, celebrating its high rate of retweets and engagement, internal records reveal. They would post the name, age, city of residence, charges, and booking photos on Twitter, noting that they would quickly be reprinted across television, online, and print media platforms. Police received more than 8,000 retweets, 11,000 likes, and 1.7 million impressions in one case, the document said. So on top of this, Trump is now attempting to actually charge activists for their own protests. So anytime that you hold a demonstration, you have to get a permit from the city. And the city legally has to authorize these permits for you. They close the streets down for public safety, etc. Well, Trump is now saying that you have to absorb these fees, not the city, for the police labor and all of that, to even legally have a protest now. The only way that you can get a permit now is if you're part of a multi-million-dollar organization. So this is going to be clearly used to target ideology, to target small activist groups who are grassroots funded. Clearly, just blatantly unconstitutional here. The Partnership for Civil Justice Fund is suing the administration over this. They sue often, and they often win. This just shows you also the preferential treatment of neo-Nazis who, again, have always been protesting for as long as I can remember. So it is just odd that all this attention is given on them now. Yes, Trump has emboldened them, but yes, they have always practiced quote unquote free speech and police have always protected them. And cities really spend millions, if not tens of millions of dollars on protecting Nazis to prove that they support free speech. Even if it's just like 5 Nazis, they'll spend just countless amounts of money to stage these protests safely for them, right? And we know how much they protect them there. So only the right gets this special treatment. And then you have protests being organized for the continuation of the Keystone XL pipelines that are going to cross dozens of Native Americans' lands, rivers. Police are just prepping for full-blown war. They are upping the ante. They're upping the scales from the Standing Rock demonstrations significantly. They have already called the actions terrorism. They've called the actors involved in that extremists. And they're going to use these phrases and terminology to justify their brutality. Another disturbing update on the coordinated purge taking place of anti-establishment voices from social media giants. As my brother said, in case you've been in a coma under a rock or you've been busy shaming leftists for being concerned about the mass removal of people like Alex Jones on the premise that he's dangerous when Fox News is clearly as dangerous, if not more, than people like Alex Jones, Media Roots is one step away from being completely purged off Facebook. Not only have the algorithms made it impossible to actually show content to the people who already like your page, but there was just a massive coordinated purge between Facebook and Twitter of, I think, 800 accounts and or pages. Now, this is going well beyond just Russian propaganda and bots, and now just going to American accounts and pages that quote unquote mimic Russian propaganda. So now it's anything that you do that somehow mirrors whatever they consider and define Russian propaganda is, and Russian tactics, then those are now targeted too. So it's taken down websites that used to promote our work, the anti-media, Cop Block, who, I've interviewed the guy from Cop Block on Breaking the Set. These pages had millions of followers. I mean, that's really significant that they spent years and years. I remember Cop Block from when I first started to get into activism being present on Facebook. So it just shows you the amount of time invested in building up these sources. I know if my Facebook page got taken down, even though I hate Facebook, I would be devastated. I've used Facebook ever since I got into this work to spread the information. I've spent countless hours putting stuff on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And so we all feel helpless. I feel like there's just this kind of vacuum right now where we don't know where to go because there's no alternative that's as user friendly as these venues that we have and that we've bought into. Weekly Standard is now somehow fact checker on Facebook. We knew that this is where it was going. But what's stunning about the Facebook purge is that it's not just content that they claim are spammy or generating clickbait or whatever. And plus, if you're going to go that route, then why don't you talk about BuzzFeed or any of these news sites really that are just littered with spam and clickbaity ads? But they've also purged people like Rachel Blevins. This is a woman who is an RT correspondent who said that her page was removed. It had 70,000 likes. She used it to do nothing but post her own content. So I don't know what is going to happen. I just feel like this is a really, really dark path and there's no turning back here. And it seems like very little people care. And mind you, this is right before the midterm elections. We've now laid down our arms and embraced these tech giants to curate our reality. And so they're now handpicking the content that they think is right and best. And whatever best promotes and parrots New York Times or Washington Post, that's accepted. It all started with Proper Not, and Proper Not was labeling these exact pages as spam, Russian propaganda, etc. Mint Press News is also being targeted on Instagram for posting simply appropriate cartoons, political cartoons, criticizing Israel. So Instagram is next. Facebook is dead. I don't know where Twitter is going to go, but it's just absolutely stunning. And there's no recourse for these pages either. I mean, they were just completely purged with no ability to protest their removal. And Trish Roberts even told me, a longtime supporter of Media Roots, said that her pages, The Naked Empire and Faint Signals from Vega, who are both anti-war, anti-imperialist pages, staunchly, not spam, were also unpublished randomly for, I think, 2 days, and her account was disabled as well. It seems like this is all just one massive staging ground for the ultimate purge. And it really does seem like that's coming soon. We knew this was happening. We've seen it happening for over a year now. It's ramped up. I guess I just didn't know it would happen so quickly once it started. The algorithms changed, and that was the first step. And I thought that was enough for the establishment to change the algorithms to make our stuff not seen. I didn't realize that it would really dovetail into this kind of outright banning and censorship. It kind of makes sense when you see who they're enlisting as the fact checkers, who they're enlisting as the real news. It's not going to be as much of a problem for white supremacists, neo-Nazis, Trump, alt-right trolls on 4chan and Reddit. They have a happy home in those places, or Gab or whatever I hear about that. Even Minds is kind of a little bit more alt-righty for my taste. I just think that people on the left, people who are progressives, people who are anti-imperialists and fighting the empire, I'm really worried about a place for us. And I think it's time to take things really, really grassroots and really underground here, like we used to, without relying on things like this. It's time to take it back to the streets, back to zines, back to podcast platforms, and taking the media to the people directly, because honestly, that is our only hope at this point. Sorry to end on a depressing note, guys, but I guess that's just the world we live in today. If you want to laugh your ass off, though, you should listen to Tim Heidecker's Office Hours because, man, I mean, I've been giving podcasts a big chance lately. I've been getting a lot of recommendations and really trying to give some other podcasts a try. And wow, they are fucking bad. Definitely check out Office Hours, though, because Tim Heidecker is so hilarious just naturally that even when it is just mindless banter, and sometimes he has Vic Berger on to do sound effects and stuff, and it's really fun, but it's just hilarious. So yeah, definitely check that out if you want to laugh and stop thinking about how terrible everything is. But in the meantime, let me know what you think. Check out our YouTube channel. I've been uploading just solo clips from the podcast if you don't have time. Check out YouTube, subscribe to our SoundCloud, our iTunes, and check us out on many platforms and just help us get the word out, guys. And don't forget to become a monthly patron on Patreon. We now have different rewards for different tiers, including a special gift package from me. So check that out on Media Roots on Patreon. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. Talk to you soon.